I feel like it's a bit too RNG to have high damage lineup to skip tiers. I absolutely agree. Callie, I fully agree with that. Like what Callie is saying, I'm gonna elaborate on that a little bit. Basically, like the way the physic works, and even to an extent the way red tier stone and blue tier stone works, is that it kind of, yeah, it does add a bit of some RNG and opportunistic moment to these fights, because you can out damage your opponent and still lose. So basically, you could be the worst player in an encounter, but because of various reasons, you might actually lose the fight. So because of like say for instance, I'm fighting, actually our fight with Callie earlier was a good example of that. So our fight with Callie earlier, it ended up being pretty much, you know, both of us were down to one shot at the end of the fight. But during the fight, what happened basically is I popped Callie's second chance, and he got back to half HP while I was still fighting, and he had not popped mine. But because our fight was very close and very like tight, like we didn't want to make a mistake, the 3 minute passed, and so I lost my tier. So basically I ended up being at lower HP than Callie, despite having out damaged them by a good like 500 to 600, maybe even 700 or 800 damage. And I mean, it goes even beyond that. Like if say during that same fight I popped Callie's tier, and Callie would have hit me with like say his Ash of War from the Crackblade, he would have gone straight through my tier and pretty much killed me, and we would have seen the same thing. I would have out damaged him, and I would have gotten killed still and lost the fight because it just went straight through my tier. So I mean, I understand that people did not like Tears of Denial in Dark Souls 3, and I actually don't see as many people complaining about the Crimson in this one. So I don't know, maybe people enjoy that more, but it definitely adds more of an RNG element instead of a, you know, an actual the better player wins type of deal. And it's the same thing for the, you know, the blue and red tier stone or the feathered rings. Like when you're low HP, you can pour out so much damage that you can completely turn a fight around by being low HP. Despite being like outplayed for most of the match. Like you can crank some one-shots once you're on red tier stone. Like with the proper setup, you can one-shot someone full HP. And so it's basically like you could outplay your opponent straight doing like, you know, no matter what you're using, like say you're using a curved sword for instance, or even like, let's put it this way, you're using a one-handed straight sword, and it's very, you know, honest and all. And despite, you know, you outplaying your opponent for a full match, despite you outplaying your opponent for a full match, you could be left in the dust just because of getting hit by the red tier stone ones. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the fight there. The tiers complainers in Dark Souls 3 were absurd, yeah. It's dual cheese, get out of there. Well, right now, the positive though, like I talked about the negative of the Crimson tier, the positive is that since the time to kill is so high in this game, having, you know, half HP more for the fights to last longer is definitely a good thing. Like I think everyone wants fight to last a little bit longer, or at least the vast majority of people. It's like, you know, there's a healthy middle ground there, I believe, between, you know, the Dark Souls 3 kind of passive meta where some fights can last 10 to 20 minutes and it's too long. Whereas in this game, you know, you have fights that last 10 seconds and most fights don't last more than 1 minute. It's some people enjoy that, but it would be cool if most fight lasted at least, you know, a little bit longer. But that's more up to personal preference. Oh. Sorry, Peter, you're, yeah. Sorry, Peter, we don't live close to each other enough to fight, I think. I think you might wanna check that Starlink you got. I think it's acting up. Do you have a streaming schedule? No. I never did. I usually back in Dark Souls 3 I'd stream every 2 days. When I started Elden Ring, I started streaming every 3 days. And recently I've been streaming even less than that. Because I don't enjoy the PvP aspect as much. But I'm trying to find solutions to try to make entertaining content that I also enjoy. I do think the game still has hope. You know, the patches are not done. We're not even 3 months after the release of the game. There's plenty of work that can still be done. You know, a patch to Bloodhound Steppe would go a long way to making the game more enjoyable. That's for sure. And obviously not just Bloodhound Steppe, but there's plenty of other things that could be tweaked. And as much as I'm not getting my hopes too high, like as much as I believe things will change, I'm not that optimistic because I feel like the fact that Bloodhound Steppe is in the game in the first place kind of puts a massive question mark in my mind. Like, do they really know what they're doing? Like, type of deal. Because a lot of things in this game like are so obvious to so many players that have been playing these games for years that it shouldn't be there. It should be a lot different. And despite being so obvious, it still made it into the final game. And so we're starting to ask ourselves questions as to how much do they even understand what they're even making? You know what I mean? And I'm not taking a jab, like, I'm gonna be real. From Software is my favorite studio. I've been playing their games since Royal Knight Resolve. I switched to that because if he did Royal Knight Resolve, I would have married it. That's the reason why I switched to Gugs. I prefer Zweihander because Zwei looks better, but I don't have Royal Knight Resolve on Zwei right now. So if you fight someone using Royal Knight Resolve, you kind of need to use it back. You like Sekiro and Bloodborne? I haven't played Sekiro. It's not my type of game. I'm not a big, you know, weeb guy. I don't even like katanas. So like the whole, like, Sekiro looks like a great game, don't get me wrong. It's just not a game for me. I don't like the Japanese team too much. I don't like that there's no character creation, no character customization. You know, I'm not a big fan of all of that. I understand that it's a good game regardless, but it's just not a game for me. You know, there's some teams that don't really excite people. Some people don't like aliens. I don't like dinosaurs. That's why I never really got into Monster Hunters. I don't like dinosaurs. And so, like, to me, Monster Hunter doesn't really excite me much because it's all dinosaurs. But the game looks fun, you know? Yeah, I win that trade. By the way, I'm gonna give you guys a huge tip for the current state of the game. R2s for a lot of weapons counter Storm Stomp. Charge R2s, you can tank Storm Stomp with a lot of weapons that have hyper armor and out-trade Storm Stomp with R2s and even stun them. So just keep that in mind for if you're struggling against Storm Stomp. This is a big tip.